did Shakur Stevenson prove his haters wrong, or his naysayers, the people who've been saying Shakur's boring? Even he addressed it. He addressed the conversation around is he a boring fighter? Listen, no fighter wants to hear that they're boring, but at the same time, I'm not here for your as crazy of a thing for it to say is these fighters aren't here for our entertainment. They're there for the bag. They're there to get money. They're there to they're there to entertain by default. They're there to entertain, hopefully. But your main thing is to win, right? It's such a funny balance trying to create that balance or understanding it or trying to explain it to a fighter, because they need to entertain in order to be a fan favorite, in order to make the money that's necessary. But if you lose constantly, if you put yourself in jeopardy of losing and you don't understand how to win a fight, then what's your value at that point, right? What would be the point in making entertaining fights that you constantly lose? Now, some fighters might be able to get away with that at the top, but not in this day and age. It's a different time. Your win-loss record, it means way more now than it did in the 90s. Right? You can look back on a lot of champions. Muhammad Ali, Mike Tyson, George Foreman, Frazier, not just heavyweights. You go back to any boxer except Rocky Marciano or Floyd Mayweather. They have a loss. Losing in sport is a part of sport. The difference is in boxing and combat sports, it's your L. There's no sharing this loss. No one's sharing the loss with you. LeBron James gets to share his loss, right? There's blame spread all around. But when a boxer or a kickboxer or MMA fighter goes into the cage or the ring or the octagon, whatever you want to call it, they're by themselves. As much as their coaches are there, they're by themselves. So that loss is yours alone. That's you. Your name is there. It doesn't say the Los Angeles Lakers. It says your first and last name. And that's a totally different experience. So you have to be conscientious of that as a fighter. Shakur Stevenson, and he addressed it, and I liked how he addressed it. He said you adjust to the fighters that you're fighting. You adjust to the fight that you're having. So if I'm in there with a guy who's a big puncher and he's dangerous, I want to have an entertaining fight, but I also want an entertaining win. I want to win. I want to go home with a win. I want to go home with a win. And with that being said, Jamel, I'm thinking Charlos. With that being said, Shakur Stevenson did what he was supposed to do this weekend in entertaining fashion. He showed out. He outclassed a champion, 35-year-old champion. He showed out this weekend. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. He stopped him. The accumulation of punches was getting to him, but Jamel never looked like he wasn't game. Like he was always in the fight, but he wasn't in to win it. That's the problem. He was in the fight. He just wasn't going to win it. And that's unfortunate for a guy who's probably at the end of his rope, 35, lost his championship belt, kind of a passing of a torch moment because it's a guy who's somewhat in his camp, a guy who has respect. They have respect for each other, even though they pretended, or at least Shakur pretended like he had no respect for him, but they definitely respect each other. Two great fighters. Well, one great fighter and one really good fighter. One guy who's projected to be great. And if he can keep this up, he will be great. He will be great. He's special. I like the way he stayed behind his jab. He threw the 1-2 very nicely. His combination punching was beautiful. He mixed it up. Different levels. He showed you different levels. He went to the body quite a bit as well. It was a great fight. It was a solid fight. Let me not say it was a great or solid fight. It was a good showing for Shakur. It was one-sided. It was I don't. There may have been 1 or 2 rounds that I could have gave Jamel, but nah, Jamel Herring did not. He didn't win any rounds really. He got worked, and it was crazy that Shakur showed out like that. Such a young guy. He's not a champion. Congratulations. And yeah, I hope he can do the same thing in his next fight. I hate when a guy wins and the first thing we ask is who's next. But unfortunately, that's the business you're in. And who is next? Who is next for Shakur? I know he said Oscar. He's looking for Oscar Valdez, which will be an interesting fight. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens.